The stranger with the knife said he didn't want to kill me, and that he wanted to take it back. He stepped out of the alley into my path, and I saw the knife in his hand, and my death in his eyes. And I understood. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go back and explain. I saw the man and knew instantly he was a recipient of the procedure, just like me. It was referred to as the second chance by the media, and called our regret by those of us who bore it. There was a small chip inserted through the tear duct of the recipient's non-dominant eye, the chip which was then grafted onto the user's prefrontal cortex. We called it the regret for a number of reasons. Aside from its prohibitive installation and maintenance cost, there were behavioral changes associated with it that made it hard to bear personally, and socially taboo as well. The first issue was this. Once you had it done, people could tell. There was no way to hide it. One eye was slightly wider, looked almost tearful, and had a strange depth that the other lacked. Those of us who had the procedure recognized each other. Secondly, those who had it complained of hearing a slight but maddening echo when conversing with others with the device. Additionally, users felt a persistent sense of deja vu. But the worst side effect was an unrelenting feeling of dissatisfaction with their life choices, decisions both big and small. That last side effect was the hardest to bear, and why most recipients eventually had it removed. Or they chased the hours, as we called it, through violent, self-inflicted means, going back an hour at a time to the moment before its implantation, and then choosing to not install it in the first place. I know that's confusing. Bear with me. It'll make sense in time. Most things do. Because that's what it was. Personal time travel on your timeline of your consciousness, sent back from the moment of your death in 1 hour increments, sometimes more. Just enough time, hopefully, to make a change that will let you avoid your death, or possibly avert someone else's. Maybe. Of course, the metaphysical implications were staggering for those who thought about such things, but most didn't or tried not to. It was an industry with practical and personal benefits as well as lobbyists, and industry marches on. Also, when it became publicly available in the early years of the 21st century, critics of the procedure, called temporalists or temps, were deflated to learn that the technology had been discovered in the 1960s, and that a clumsier version had been used by government officials and law enforcement for over half a century to avert crisis and disasters, when possible. Once it was discovered that civil servants had been using it for over half a century, the personal user's time came around at last. Time travelers in pursuit of their right to happiness now walked among us, with distant eyes and twisted mouths, and one had just stepped out of the alleyway and stood confronting me now. He'd come out of an alley which I'd avoid next time, and was holding a large steak knife against my chest. Its point dimpled the thin material of my shirt like a sharp, accusatory finger. Perhaps next time I'd put on a heavy coat before leaving the house too, just to be safe. "Listen and remember," he said urgently, his voice echoing with a slight reverb that set my teeth on edge, staring at me with those eyes that were mismatched, one wet eye a little wider with a depth that was disconcerting. "I have a message from the future. In 27 years a meteor will appear in the sky, too close to stop, too late to do anything about. If we discovered it sooner, maybe we could have done something to stop it. We will this time. You have to pass these coordinates backwards, farther backwards. Humanity's future depends on it." And then with tears in his mismatched eyes, and a voice choked with emotion, he passed the fateful numbers an hour backwards, and as he stabbed me again and again, with my dying breath I thanked him.